coffee mugs, and a forgotten laptop. "Hey, Zara, can you grab my charger from the living room?" My sister Lena shouted from the kitchen. "Laptop's dying." I nodded, balancing the tray, already tired from cooking for a family that barely looked me in the eye unless they needed something. I stepped into the living room, saw the glowing screen, her MacBook still open, Slack messages pinging softly. I wasn't going to snoop, but then a bold header caught my eye. Family only eyes speech balloon. My hands froze around the charger. The screen was wide open to a group chat. Familiar names. Dad. Mom. Lena. Our cousin Neil. Aunt Rhea. Even my younger brother, Sam. A message from Lena hovered at the bottom. "She'll help, obviously. Zara always helps. She's just too desperate for our approval to say no. We all know that." Then Sam added, "Yup. She comes running. Every time. It's kinda pathetic now." My mouth went dry. My ears rang. I hadn't even finished reading before another message popped up. It was from Mom. "Don't feel bad asking. She lives to feel needed. It gives her purpose. If we don't lean on her, what else does she have?" The world tipped sideways. Every favor I had ever done for them. Every late-night call I answered. Every dollar I wired when rent was a little tight. Every job I took on top of my own exhausting work just to make sure they didn't go without. It was all mocked, dissected, reduced to some sad craving for affection. And they were right about one thing. I never said no. Not when Lena cried about student loans. Not when Dad needed help covering a mortgage payment he secretly gambled away. Not when Mom said her arthritis was acting up again and she couldn't work. I always dropped everything. I gave them all of me, and now they laughed about it. The room spun, but I stood still. Charger in one hand, truth in the other. Lena's voice rang from the kitchen again. "Did you get it?" I walked back, handed it over. "Here." My voice didn't shake. My face didn't change. But something inside me did. Something finally snapped, not into anger, not into vengeance, into clarity. And for the first time in my life, I smiled without guilt. The next day, I started saying no. Not in anger. Not with dramatic speeches. Just no. Lena asked if I could cover her car payment this month. Just until I get my bonus. I looked at her calmly. "I'm sure you'll figure it out." Sam messaged me a meme and then a quick, "Hey, think you could spot me $200 just for a few days?" I typed, "Can't. Good luck though." Mom called, her voice already laced with false concern. "Zara, sweetie, can you drive me to the doctor on Tuesday? My knees." "I have meetings all day," I said. "Maybe Sam can do it. But gotta go. Love you." Click. And each no felt like air. Light. Freedom. But kindness isn't weakness. So instead of cutting them off, I gave them something they couldn't twist. Silence. Space. And the chance to show who they were without the crutch of my generosity. I watched. And slowly, the cracks formed. Lena's lies about rent caught up to her. Mom's web of poor me collapsed when she had to ask someone else. Sam? He spiraled when no one bailed him out. But I wasn't vengeful. I wasn't gloating. I just waited. Quiet. Growing. Because I had a plan. Not revenge. Not bitterness. A reality check, one that would make them see me for once. Not as their helper. Not as their bank. But as the woman they'd underestimated. And I was going to deliver it where it hurt the most, but also where it would heal. They wouldn't see it coming. But when it did, it would shake them awake. And for the first time in their lives, they'd finally listen. By the end of the week, I was invisible. The group chat still buzzed. I hadn't told Lena I saw it. I wanted them comfortable, unguarded, their masks still on. So they kept talking. I watched. Lena complained. "I don't get it. She's acting weird. Did she finally grow a spine?" Neil replied, "Doubt it. Probably broke." Dad chimed in for the first time in days. "If she's smart, she'll call me. I'll guilt her into helping. Worked last time." Worked last time. They had no idea I'd read every word. But I wasn't sulking, I was building. You see, What they didn't know was that I wasn't just some pushover with a decent paycheck. I'd spent the last 2 years investing quietly, partnering with a startup, taking courses at night, and working with a mentor who believed in me more than my family ever had. And last month, my side hustle? It got acquired. The deposit hit my account 3 days before I saw that group chat. 7 figures.
Clean.
Legal.
Mine.
But I told no one, because this was never about showing off. It was about becoming someone I didn't need their permission to be. Saturday came fast. We had a family dinner planned. Lena's idea, of course. Mom texted, "Zara, you're still bringing dessert, right?" I replied, "Absolutely." And I did. Only this time it wasn't store-bought. I hired a private pastry chef. Mini cheesecakes infused with rose petals and gold leaf. Delicate lavender tarts. Art on plates. When I walked in, I was wearing a tailored deep navy jumpsuit, minimalist jewelry, and a smile so calm it unnerved even Sam. "Whoa, look at you," Lena said, raising a brow. "You finally stopped shopping at clearance racks?" I didn't flinch. "Good to see you too." Dinner was predictable. They laughed, bragged, made little jabs at me masked as jokes. Mom raved about Lena's new boyfriend again. Dad told another tired story about how he almost became VP at a company 20 years ago. And I listened, like I always had. Only this time, I didn't absorb a single word. I was watching, preparing. Then, Lena leaned across the table with a wine-stained smile. "So, about that favor. You know I wouldn't ask if I wasn't desperate." Here it was. The ask. The moment. Everyone grew quiet. Even Mom set down her fork. "I need a loan. Just for a month. 10 grand. I'll pay it back. Promise." I looked around. Every eye locked on me, waiting for the familiar script. Zara nods. Zara says yes. Zara saves the day. Instead, I smiled. "Of course I'll help." Relief flooded the room. Laughter returned. "But I won't give you money," I added, my tone soft. "I'll give you an opportunity." Silence. Lena blinked. "What?" "I'm starting a nonprofit," I said, voice steady. "Focused on young women who've been financially and emotionally manipulated by their own families." Dad chuckled nervously. "That's oddly specific." "I know," I said, eyes meeting his. "It's close to home." Lena crossed her arms. "So, you're what? Refusing to help unless we perform in your little charity project?" I leaned in. "No, Lena. I'm offering you a job." "A what?" "I need someone to coordinate donation drives. You're good at asking for things. Maybe try doing it for someone else for once." Sam scoffed. "So, you're punishing us?" I tilted my head. "No. I'm inviting you to grow." Mom slammed her fork down. "You've changed." I smiled. "Thank you." The table was tense, uncomfortable, real. And that's when I pulled out the envelope. I laid it on the table. "What's this?" Dad asked. "My lawyer's contact. The organization I partnered with just finalized the endowment. I'm placing $500,000 into the trust. It'll be managed transparently, audited monthly. No handouts. But if any of you want to work for it, really work, the opportunity is there." Lena looked at me like I had 2 heads. "You're kidding." "I'm not," Sam muttered under his breath. "So this is your power trip?" "No," I said, still calm. "This is my boundary. The door is open, but it's no longer a revolving one." And then I got up, took my coat, kissed my mom's cheek. "I love you," I said, voice soft, even when it's hard to. Then I walked out. No drama. No slamming doors. Just peace. The next morning, I woke up to a dozen missed calls. Mom, Lena, Sam, even Dad. No one ever called me that much unless something was wrong, or unless something finally sunk in. I didn't call back. Instead, I opened the curtains to my little balcony and breathed in the quiet. For once, the silence in my life wasn't loneliness. It was liberation. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt. I was simply done performing. And when you stop playing the part people wrote for you, it's funny how they panic. By noon, Lena showed up at my door. She knocked like she meant it. When I opened it, her eyes searched my face, maybe for weakness, for softness. But she found something else entirely. She found me. "Can we talk?" she asked, voice tighter than usual. I stepped aside.
Sure.
She sat on my couch, looking too put together to be comfortable. Designer bag, lashes done. But her hands trembled. "I don't know what's happening," she blurted. This new attitude, it's weird, Zara. You're scaring me." I raised an eyebrow. "Scaring you? You're always the calm one. The helper. You don't talk like this. You don't just walk away from people." "No," I said slowly, "but people walk over me. Often." Lena winced. "We didn't mean it like that. The group chat, those were just jokes." "Really?" I said, holding her gaze. "So, I've spent the last 10 years bending backwards for all of you, and it was all one long joke." Silence. Then she whispered, "We didn't think you'd see it." That was the truth, wasn't it? They only spoke that way because they assumed I'd never know. And even if I did, they were sure I'd still stay. Because desperation looks like loyalty when you're standing too far back. I crossed my arms gently. "Do you want to know why I didn't blow up? Why I didn't yell or cut you off?" She nodded. "Because I didn't need to punish you. I just needed to protect myself." Lena looked away, biting her lip. I need the money, Zara." I sighed softly. "You need something deeper than that. You need to remember how to be self-sufficient." Her voice cracked. "But I don't know how. I leaned on you because I could. Because you were there." I knelt beside her. Not as a sibling filled with resentment, but as a woman who once begged for scraps of validation. "You weren't wrong to lean on me," I said quietly. "You were wrong to call it pathetic." Her eyes filled. But I didn't comfort her the way I used to, not by taking on her burden. I let her feel it. Because sometimes pain doesn't need relief. It needs recognition. "I want to change," she whispered. "I do. But I don't know where to start." "You already did," I said, "by walking through my door without asking for a check." She blinked. Then she cried. And I let her. Because this time she wasn't crying for attention. She was finally waking up. The days that followed were quiet again. No calls from Sam. No messages from Dad. Mom sent a cryptic text about Lena acting weird and emotional lately. I didn't reply. Because I'd stopped managing their emotional comfort. Instead, I poured myself into my new project. I met with my board.
Designed outreach programs.
Structured educational grants for girls from emotionally manipulative families. Hired counselors. Built something real from my wounds. And soon, my name was on news features, interviews, podcasts. Not as a victim, as a founder, a leader, a woman who turned silence into legacy. A month later, something unexpected happened. Sam showed up. He was skinnier, looked tired, nervous. I got laid off," he muttered, hands in his hoodie. "Didn't know who else to call." I paused. The old me would have said, "Come in, I'll cook something." Maybe even hand him cash before he asked.
But now?
I stepped outside and closed the door gently behind me. "Come walk with me." He frowned. "What?" "Walk. No car rides. No handouts. Just a walk." And as we walked, I told him what I told Lena. "You weren't wrong to lean on me. You were wrong to never offer your hand back."
He didn't cry.
He didn't beg. But by the end of the walk, he asked a question he'd never asked me before. "Can you teach me what you've been doing?" And I smiled. Because that was growth. Not revenge. Not guilt. But choice. The night I saw my parents again, the air felt heavier. Not because I was scared, but because I was prepared. Mom invited me to dinner. Just me. "Let's have a little catch-up," she said on the phone, her voice sweet like syrup. Too sweet. The kind that coats your teeth in something you can't swallow. I knew what it was. Not guilt. Not affection. Control, her last desperate grasp at it. But I went. Not to prove anything. To close the loop. Their house hadn't changed. Same garden gnomes. Same dusty welcome mat. Same feeling that I didn't belong. Dad was on the couch, pretending to read. He looked up like he wasn't expecting me, even though he knew. Mom hugged me stiffly. She'd worn perfume, lipstick, her armor. We sat, ate quietly. They asked about the project, but didn't say the name. Didn't acknowledge the interviews, the recognition, the impact. Instead, Mom said, "You've been distant, Zara." "I've been at peace," I replied. Dad chuckled. "Peace doesn't pay the bills." I looked him square in the eye. "Actually, it paid me more than you ever did." That landed hard. Mom tried to recover. "We didn't mean for you to feel excluded. The group chat, it wasn't serious." "But it was," I said, voice steady. "Because it's not the words that matter most. It's the truth behind them." They both went quiet. Then Mom's mask slipped. "We needed help, Zara. We weren't mocking you. We were depending on you." "That's the problem," I whispered. "You don't know the difference." The room fell still. Then Dad muttered, "So what now? You cut us off like some righteous hero?" I looked at him. "No," I said. "I'm giving you the one thing I never had growing up, a choice." He blinked. "What?" "You can keep seeing me as the fallback plan. Or you can meet the woman I actually am now and start over. But you can't do both." Dad scoffed. "You think you're better than us now?" I shook my head gently. "No. I think I'm finally equal." Mom stood up. Her voice wobbled. "Zara, we raised you. We gave you everything." "No, you gave me just enough to believe I wasn't worth more," I said. "But that belief ends tonight." I reached into my purse and pulled out 3 envelopes. One for each of them. I slid them across the table. Mom opened hers first. Inside was a photo of a young girl I met at one of our outreach events. A short note scribbled in the corner. She got into college, first in her family. Sam's envelope held a letter, handwritten, from a teen he once mocked for being too sensitive. That teen was now an intern in our media division, and he called Sam his unintentional inspiration. Dad's envelope was different. It was empty, except for a sticky note. "You still have time to be better, but I won't wait for you to choose it." I stood. "You asked what now?"
This.
This is what now looks like. Boundaries.
Grace.
And space. They didn't follow me out the door. They didn't call my name. But for once, I didn't leave feeling small. I left whole. That night, Lena texted, "You okay?" I replied, "Better than I've ever been." "You?" After a pause, she responded, "Still learning. But I'm trying." And that was enough. Because redemption doesn't scream. It grows quietly, like a seed in soil no one believed could bloom. 6 months later, the woman I used to be would have barely recognized my life. But the truth? I didn't miss her. I didn't miss the exhaustion of being everything for everyone. I didn't miss the endless, aching hunger for a nod of approval. I didn't miss sitting quietly while they joked at my expense, pretending it didn't hurt. What I had now was more real than I ever imagined. Lena had started working with our community outreach branch. It wasn't glamorous work, sorting supplies, talking to survivors of manipulation, organizing care packages, but she showed up. One day, she pulled me aside. "I didn't know how much I hurt you," she said. "But now I see it. Every box I pack, every story I hear. It's like looking in a mirror. And I'm sorry." I didn't cry. I just hugged her. Because the best revenge isn't watching them fall. It's watching them grow. Sam took longer. He didn't jump into a job. He didn't join the foundation. But he started calling, not for money, not to ask for help, but just to talk. One day, he sent me a photo. Him and a teenager at a community center. The caption read, "He reminds me of me. I'm trying to be better for him." That was all he said. But it was more than I ever thought I'd hear. And my parents? They didn't change overnight. But slowly, the calls stopped being about obligation. Mom sent me a handwritten note for my birthday. "I'm sorry I made love feel transactional," she wrote. "You deserved better. You still do." And Dad? He didn't say much. But one Sunday afternoon, he showed up at one of our events. No fanfare. No lectures. He just stood at the back, folding chairs after the crowd left. He didn't say, "I'm proud." He just said, "Need help with the next one?" And somehow that was enough. My foundation, the Anchor Project, now helped over 200 women and girls reclaim their power. Women like me. Girls like who I used to be. Too soft for a cruel world. Too kind for people who took advantage of them.
But now?
They were builders, artists, entrepreneurs, warriors in their own quiet ways. Every time I stood before them, I remembered that message from the family group chat. She'll always come running. She's too desperate for our approval to say no. Maybe that version of me did run, but not because I was desperate. I ran because I believed I had to earn love.
Now?
I walk. And the only thing I chase now is peace. As I closed my journal one evening, I glanced at a sticky note still pinned to my desk. The one I wrote after reading that group chat. It said, "Don't burn the bridge. Just build your own." And I did. And from that bridge, I invited others across. Not out of revenge, out of hope, because sometimes the real reality